Welcome to episode very, very early into the season, is how I'd frame it for our NFL season, post NFL draft. Um, this is more just going to be rookie running backs in terms of their landing spots. This specific episode will be sort of the ones that were taken later, and then we'll build into the next episode, which will be the ones that were taken at the higher point of the draft. With me, I have Uncle Jordan, as he's known to most people. How are we going, Jordan?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Matt. Pleasure to be back again.
Good to see you got your Denver stuff on. Still got Drew Lock. Probably cross your fingers that turns to A. Rogers very soon. And you got Javonte Williams and a few very, very handy cornerbacks post draft. So that's nice.
Yeah, I think one of the other ones, Jamar Johnson from Indiana, safety, is another one that we got who's going to be a great safety for the future. So look, good picks all around on the defense there. Let's see what happens at quarterback. Fingers crossed we don't go into the season with Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, that would be kind of gross. Without further ado, though, we'll start with sort of the tail end of the draft and Jamar Jefferson, who a lot of people sort of thought was going to go far earlier than he kind of did. He just kept falling and falling and falling, and I'm not entirely sure sort of whether that was to do with some of the tape coaches have seen or maybe some of the pro days, but a lot of people sort of had him day three, sort of maybe a little bit early, maybe a little bit later, but pick 257 to Detroit. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, Jamar Jefferson's somebody I would have liked to have seen gone day two. He's a pretty complete running back. So for him to have gone as late as he did is really disappointing. We've got some comps there, the Devontae Bookers, Jamal Williams, who he's going to be playing with. So, that gives you a bit of an idea of what his outlook is. But, he's somebody who did pretty well in the Pac-12, but I guess when it came up to NFL caliber talent like Kayvon Thibodeaux and Noah Sewell, really got dominated in that Oregon game in 2020, last year, 2020.
I think that that Detroit running back room's kind of been gross for the last decade in terms of fantasy value, just because the ceiling's always been there, but the problem is you never quite know who's it going to be each time, and they kind of everyone thinks that they've had that with certain different players, like even Abdullah in the past, and they kind of never made it. And then I think people think that Swift is now the guy. I was kind of tempted on the price last year on DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
I'm not going near him at the price he is right now, and that's more so just because I want to see them invest in a running back and kind of stay there. I know they went and added Jamal Williams and Jamar Jefferson, and they're all just very, very similar backs, and I'm not sure DeAndre Swift at the NFL level is an absolute three down back, and then you got Jamar Jefferson who can kind of catch the ball, and you've got Jamal Williams who that's kind of all he's done for the last little while. It just becomes just some of the ceiling touch wise for DeAndre Swift might sort of drop, and it'll be interesting to see where Jamar Jefferson fits into that back system.
Yeah, look, the Jamal Williams comparison or the situation, you'd like to hope that this is going to be reminiscent of what they did with Green Bay and DeAndre Swift becomes the Aaron Jones role. The problem in that situation is that we know Detroit's going to be playing from behind a lot. And we also know that, it's going to be fairly gross at times because, let's face it, they're probably the WR1 is going to be a rookie, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So it could be pretty rough. Let's see. At the moment, I'm not seeing a big outlook for Jamar Jefferson unless somebody goes down. He's a good player. He's got some good skills. But look, he's right now, he's destined to be, 3 on the depth chart.
Agreed. I think he kind of sits third with him and Jamal, but Jamal just gets the edge based on the vet. But if, for example, DeAndre Swift did get hurt, I think Jamar Jefferson, there's no reason he wouldn't contend if they didn't sort of go and add a vet. But Detroit's just a gross backfield, so pretty average sort of landing spot. But yeah, one that's kind of super interesting that some of the deeper fantasy players are starting to talk about, and some of maybe the more casuals won't have heard the name, but Jared Dokes to Miami with pick 244 is an interesting one. Also, because I think everyone going into the draft thought that they were surefire going to grab a running back. Now, they obviously weren't going to get one of the top 6 picks, and they might have thought one of those top 2 or 3 might drop down, and then Najee went, Etienne went, and then your Broncos went and jumped and grabbed Javonte Williams. And at that point, there was just a very, very steep fall, I think, in a lot of people's opinions in terms of their next running back. But they are Myles Gaskin's owners and Deepa Salvon Ahmed's owners will be a bit excited. But Jared Dokes is an interesting one.
Yeah, look, Dokes out of Cincinnati Bearcats. He was an interesting one. Slightly bigger, slightly thicker running back. He played with Michael Warren, who was on the verge of a few teams in the last season. Interesting one. His comp is TJ Yeldon. So look, I guess the thing is there. We've seen Salvon Ahmed have fantasy value when Myles Gaskin went down. There's definitely a path for some value over this season. Let's really see how that manifests, because in completely the opposite reality to what James Robinson is facing, the Dolphins seem to want to give Myles Gaskin another shot, which is fantastic, but it almost is, it's sort of why is he getting the easy run in comparison to James Robinson, who had a stellar season. But hey, that's just how it is. And to be completely fair, I would say Miami is actually a franchise on the right path.
For sure, I agree. I think like they've built backside in terms of their defense, and then forget that much like fantasy in terms of the last player you draft as your running back because of their shelf life, they've kind of drafted then outside in again. I might be biased. I own Salvon Ahmed in a few leagues. Picked him up deep last year, and I'm just not sold Gaskin's the guy. Now, it doesn't mean that he can't be the guy for this year. I like the fact that it's a possibility that if shit goes wrong, there's no reason that they can't turn to someone else. They've got no attachment to it.
Yeah.
They don't have to flog a dead horse just because of draft capital and stuff like that. So I think that Ahmed is potentially going to sort of see some touches, which means I also think Dokes could have some sort of value in deeper rosters, those dynasty ones that let you roster 30, 35 people. If you've got like a 4th or 5th round pick and he's still on the board, if Gaskin goes down, I think you've got a very, very, and even if he doesn't go down, I think if he does something in rookie camp, there's no reason that he couldn't sort of have some sort of value that you might want to hold on to. So he's just one that I think he could be absolutely nothing, but like you're spending a 4th or 5th in your rookie picks for, he's just an interesting, like sort of one that could be nothing and you can cut him super quick, but he could also just skyrocket like James Robinson, just like that, purely because there's no one kind of there that there's no reason that you couldn't sort of take a punt on him.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, look, he's probably the most interesting one in my opinion. Because you're not paying top dollar for him, and the other aspect of it is we're pretty sure after what we've seen in the last 12 months that rookie running backs will get a shot at least for 1 or 2 games. Salvon Ahmed, somebody I really liked last year. I picked him up as a waiver wire in one of our dynasty leagues. Had him on my radar already. Interesting fact about him and Gaskin is they're both from Washington Huskies, so both the same alma mater. But yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see how Dokes fits in. He's probably there's another a UDFA who I think has got a really good opportunity as well. But yeah, Dokes is one of the ones I'd keep as a bit of an eye on.
It's all about price in this game, you know what I mean? It's all about getting people cheap and then sort of selling them high and accruing value. So he's just one that I could see his value is far higher than you're paying right now, and just an interesting punt. Another one that's super kind of interesting, I didn't dive a whole lot into his tape pre-draft, and I kind of don't know a whole lot about him. It's one that contends with a very interesting dynasty player people are talking about right now in Demont, and that's pick 217 in the 6th round. Chicago decided to go with Khalil Herbert.
Yeah. So look, VT player. Being a VT Hokies fan myself, he's somebody who I'd watched during the season. Look, during the season, I really didn't see any of the hype. Wasn't really overly impressed with him. I'm sure he did a good job, but he's behind Christian Darrisaw. So that's a bit of an advantage there.
Sure.
Funnily enough, his comp is somebody we just talked about in Salvon Ahmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, there's some people who've been raving about him. They think he's got a great opportunity. He's just going to be just another guy.
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of interesting, Damon, right now because moving into his sort of his midway through his rookie deal, and he seems like when it's going well, it's going super well, and when it's going terrible, it's terrible, and you're not quite sure if it's the O line, whether it's offensive play slow in the box, or if it's just Damon. And I think this pick for me is a sort of move that Chicago is saying, hey, look, we believe you're the guy. Obviously, you need sort of you need some sort of depth chart. Everyone loves Tarik Cohen. That's cool in your 6 PPR sort of leagues, and he catches the ball in the backfield. But they don't really have a whole lot of good stocks in terms of running the ball. And I think this was just a move that just says, hey, look, you're all good to go for now. We're not going to spend super high draft capital, and then we're just going to give you some sort of assurance in the back. If they had not drafted anyone, I probably would have been more worried that they were loading up elsewhere, and then in future years we're starting to get ready to draft the running back, because it doesn't happen often that you go running back. So unless your name is the Buffalo Bills. But I think that they're just trying to solidify it and really give Demont a crack, which is interesting. I think he's going to, again, just be a guy. I think he's going to sit in behind Demont. But if Demont goes down, this backfield's wide open. I don't think Tarik Cohen's ever shown that he's going to be a running back in the natural sense. He's going to be a good pass catching up the back. But if Demont goes down, I mean, there's great upside there.
I think the Tarik Cohen, Nyheim Hines, I think are the definition of the pass catching back. So just a little thing probably to keep an eye on there is the Bears have their bye in week 10. So let's say if there was a situation where Demont was to go down, if they came back around that bye week 11, I can see a situation where Khalil Herbert was given an opportunity, basically given the keys to the car. So that's something to look at with these rookie running backs is when are the bye weeks, because that might give you an idea of when that opportunity could be for them.
For sure, I think bye weeks are super interesting when injury happens. Like if you get a bye week that's kind of in a weird spot of the year and someone goes down, often you kind of just end up resting them to the bye week, and then you bring them back later. So that can often mean quite a bit. There's a few guys that have happened in the past, and it happened with Alvin Kamara for a little while. Fucking pained me. It cost me a championship one year. They just rested him. I couldn't hold any longer. Great point there, though. Like those ones with bye weeks 8, 9, 10, if you get injured week 3, it's just you just end up icing them. So very interesting. Another interesting one is team that took 2 running backs in the draft, and that's San Fran, and they grabbed Elijah Mitchell with pick 194 in the 6th round, who for me is just he's just super athletic. He's fast, he's quick, he's comparable as McKinnon. I have him, which is funny enough, sort of being a San Fran man, but I just think he's just like a little dinker and diver, and I think he's just going to be sort of a weapon rather than a running back in the same sense. Especially the school we came out of, Louisiana Lafayette, they kind of just out the gate in sort of the sense of what they do. So that's what I think of him. And we'll touch on who I really like out of that backfield later on.
Yeah, certainly. So Raging Cajun. So I guess with Elijah Mitchell, Trey Regis was the one that I was more interested out of the two. Definitely on paper, he was a lot more interesting as well. Early in my process, I did watch some Elijah Mitchell tape, and to be fair, he wasn't one of the more interesting players I watched. Sure, he had a good showing at the Senior Bowl. There's been other things that have come out reasonably well. He's another one who's got this comparison with TJ Yeldon. I guess he fits in with this whole 49ers running back environment. There's another one, which I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about. But if we talk about Mitchell, Mitchell's got a good pass receiving clout. He's also able to hit the gap, and he can sort of, I guess, do that, those classic sort of 49er style runs where they get the wide open, in the wide zone and blocking, and then basically take it to the house. So I think he's going to fit. It's an interesting one being in round 6, the fact that he fell so late. Again, he did better than his teammate, Trey Ragas, who effectively was, undrafted and went to Las Vegas. So he's going to be pretty much buried in obscurity there. But he's an interesting one. And the thing is with in San Francisco is they do give their running backs an opportunity. It may only be for a game or two, but it's going to be a similar situation to what we talked about with Dokes. The problem with that is you're just not going to know when to play him.
Yeah, it's fucking anyone that had any of those guys was painful last year. I think that the way that kind of it went was whichever's the cheapest guy to get, and the one you didn't think was going to get, go get. I remember everyone started loading up on Wilson when Mostert and Coleman went down, and then so I told someone to go grab McKinnon. Went to grab McKinnon banged, sold McKinnon straight away, and then go grab Jeffrey Wilson, and they just love sort of changing it up. Interesting. It's a super crowded backfield, and yet no one kind of really has the keys. They all have their roles, so it'll be interesting to see once. I don't think they're going to pay Mostert again. I don't think you can. So I think he'll be gone, and then it's kind of hand over the keys time and figure out what that looks like. I can see a RB room where Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon, who we'll talk about in the next podcast, kind of just take their own. But we've been saying that for years. We thought Mostert was going to be the guy, and him and Coleman just bounce between each other, and McKinnon and Wilson, and it's just weird. Like everyone thought Wilson, and he still could easily lead this backfield this year. Yeah, like I sold Wilson last year, sort of as soon as he had those hot weeks, and framing him as he could be a starting running back, but really kind of don't know until week one, and then you never really know. So this backfield's interesting. They're cheap guys now on rookie deals, and I think they'll all get their crack, as you said.
Yeah, the other slightly interesting narrative there is that Cole Jusic was on the interview on the Fantasy Footballers was talking up Raheem Mostert, saying they had big plans for them. And then in the exact opposite to that, I hear murmurs of a trade with him to Atlanta for Julio Jones and other pieces.
Oh, so, you wouldn't get.
Who knows?
No, but see, this is what because while you bring him up, he got paid over the offseason. He got paid quite a bit of money for a fullback. So, and we all know what he means to that offense. He's far more than just a fullback. So, interesting because they love using the fullbacks too. So you start taking guaranteed touches away from running backs, and you start to think, "Fuck, do you really want to play them?" They make good flex options, but always worrying. That's the first two rounds, or the 7th and 6th round. Round 5 now. The Suns got a lot of people on one side and a lot of people on the other, and that's pick 150 Kenneth Gainwell to Philly. As a Miles Sanders owner, I did just sell him in one of my leagues. It's got nothing to do with Kenneth Gainwell going there. I just think Miles Sanders is, I'm not sure he's ever going to be the guy we think he can be and should be, but it's got nothing to do with Gainwell. I think he's a great running back. I think Gainwell is very much a one-trick pony. And it's just weird. And I think a lot of people thought he was going to go earlier. Interesting player, though, to add to that backfield.
Yeah. Look, Kenny Gainwell is somebody I really liked, especially his tape, that Cotton Bowl 2019 against Penn State. I mean, he was all over the place. Look, to be fair, I mean, Memphis was trying to make a small argument for being running back you for a little while when you think about, Darrell Henderson, Antonio Gibson, and now Kenny Gainwell. But, what he's able to do, he's a great running back, but he's also able to motion in and out of the slot as well. And he's a very effective wide receiver. As a receiver. So, look, this isn't a great landing spot. I think the best we can really hope for him is that he has a similar career to that of Darren Sproles. The problem there is you've got Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders has the potential to actually be a 3-down bell cow type running back. So this sort of feels a little bit redundant. Why are you bringing in a guy just for the pass catching when you've already got somebody who can do it all? But look, I guess you've got to plan for the rest of the season. From a fantasy perspective, we know that Boston Scott had relevance, and Boston Scott's not even that good. So look.
Well, so Miles Sanders, I remember in 2 years ago, he had 509 receiving yards. and was absolutely just killing it. And then I know there was a narrative last year, and he got 197, and everyone was very confused because he was only getting 7 yards per catch as opposed to 10 the previous year, and that his passing work had fallen off. I know that being a narrative, and that's kind of interesting with them going and bringing Kenny Gainwell in, because that's very much a hallmark of his ability is his pass catching work. But it'll be interesting to see how they split the work. I agree. I think Miles Sanders has a super high ceiling. I'm just not entirely sure the Eagles are all in on him, like they are about the whole of their team, to be honest. But Kenny Gainwell, he just seems like a meh pick in that spot. I think there's no reason that Miles Sanders can't do his great catching work based on his rookie season as Gainwell. So, I mean, yeah, it's a meh pick. I'm not trying to get Gainwell, but I think he's a very, very high handcuff to have because they don't have a whole lot of options there. And at the moment, like they got Jordan Howard, and he's fucking meh. Kerryon Johnson, don't start with Kerryon Johnson to me, please. The boat's gone.
Carry on my wayward son. Goodness gracious.
He's gone. I'm not taking him back. I just don't want to hear about him again. So,
So there's an interesting point here, and this, and it's just something that popped into my head. Kenny Gainwell is, in my mind, the poor man's Travis Etienne. Mm-hmm. So if we think about what the rumours are that Urban Meyer's trying to do with Etienne, we're basically using him, I guess, motioning him around, having him in and out of the slot, catching passes. And this is this whole point of this discussion, or this point of positionless football, which keeps the defenses guessing and things like that. What if we see Kenny Gainwell and Sanders on the field at the same time, and they're moving them around? They've got them in and out of the slot. You don't know who's actually going to be lined up, and you're keeping the defenses guessing. Because and look, and if that's the case, then they've basically got him for a fraction of the price of what the Jags had to pay for Etienne, and he's probably going to do just as good a job in that role.
And that's for me is the key to it. Is it's cheaper. It's all about just getting it on the cheap, and like they don't have many pass catchers there. I mean, they drafted a wide receiver and Devontae Smith, and they've got Rager from last year in the first round, and fuck me, that's about it, to be honest. So they got Ertz and got it, and Ertz, I imagine, could easily be gone very soon, and that's kind of about it. So they don't have too many options, and he can line up other slot, and you can kind of go.
Oh, you forgot J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
Fuck. Is he still a thing? Like, is he still on the roster? You kind of just forget that he's just never there.
He's as much as a thing as Hakeem Butler.
Yeah.
And N'Keal Harry.
No, N'Keal Harry for me, he's one of my buys this year. I'm trying to buy him everywhere. Anyway, there's a conversation for another year. Round 4, we had Chuba Hubbard, who 2 years ago could have been a first-round pick. He now goes in the 4th round to arguably the ugliest spot you could go to in Carolina. And then he was declared, he ended up being bought in the Canadian Football League draft. He will be in the NFL, and he will be the backup to Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, so look, the whole thing with Hubbard is he should have declared at the end of the 2019 season.
Yeah.
The problem is he went back to school. His coach, Jeff Gundy, is
a mug, but anyway, carry on.
Yeah, so no, but that's the whole point of it. So Gundy got in trouble for wearing an OAN T-shirt, which is basically like an alt-right news agency. And it's very anti, like Black Lives Matters and things like that. So Hubbard actually got really annoyed at that and called him out on Twitter. And it became this whole thing. And as a result, he sat games. They sat him. Then he was sharing the field with other players. And then basically after a few games, he wound up basically opting out. So he didn't have a full season. I've heard some people say that you're best just to treat the last season for Hubbard as an opt-out, because what can you really get from that? From an ability point of view, in my mind, his comp is Raheem Mostert. So I really wanted him to go to San Francisco.
Yeah.
The issue with him is that he gets the tightest ankle tap, or just the littlest ankle tap, and he goes down. Now, if he gets a path, basically a wide zone, he's through it, and he'll be, he'll get away from people like anyone's business. Yeah, he really is. But right now, I just don't see him having much success unless McCaffrey goes down. And the problem with that then is they're going to have to change their whole style as well, because he's a completely different running back.
Yeah, it's in terms of like his stats, like in 2018, 124 rush attempts for 740 yards, 6 yards per carry. 2019, where we both thought that he should have declared, 328 rush attempts for 2,094 yards, 6.4 carry. Now you're getting 328 carries. You're getting 6.4 yards a carry. It's insane over longevity. Declare, get your ass out of there. He was a first round pick, and in the sense that he was one of the first 2 running backs off the board that year, pretty consensusly. And then he went back and had these troubles, 133 yards, 625, and he just didn't look good. That offense was pretty average that year, and in the previous year they had no defense as per in that conference, and they're just slinging the ball and moving it quick. So 2019 was his trip to the promised land, and now it's just ugly. CMC goes down. Look at what Mike Davis did last year. Super handicap to have it. I think Chuba's one of the few people that, if you own CMC, are not going to come for you if you reach on him in those rookie drafts. So if you're grabbing him at the end of his consensus spot's probably mid third, maybe early, maybe late, depending on your league. Like if you're grabbing him 204, 205, 206 because you're the CMC owner, I don't blame you. You look at what Mike Davis did last year. If you had him as your handcuff, you didn't lose too much over those weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he only had 325 snaps last year compared to 821 the following year, the previous year. Sorry, that something with it. It was definitely something going on, but with him and the rest of that team. I mean, he was splitting the backfield and barely even getting on.
For sure. Yeah. My boy, pick 120, Rhamondre Stevenson to New England. My boy from Oklahoma, in division with Chuba, had a pretty killer last season. He looked quite nice. Looked very big. OU offense is always flying, so I'm always kind of skeptical because everyone can look good in our offense, just because of how many points we score on the quarterbacks that we have go through. The real QBU. Thank you very much. 5'11".
Typically good O-lines as well.
Yeah, we've had some big O-lines. This was the first year this year just gone that we didn't have a whole lot as much draft capital as we have in previous years. It wasn't a bad O-line though, don't get me wrong, but 231 pounds, big boy. I'm just not entirely sure what I think of it. New England, the landing spot is super interesting. I think this kind of spells the end of Michelle for sure at that price. And incoming Damian Harris season and Rhamondre Stevenson will be interesting. I think James White keeps his role that he's always going to have, and that's very interesting because Damian Harris kind of can't catch the ball. Rhamondre Stevenson, while he can catch the ball, it's kind of not entirely what he does. He's more of a big dude. He kind of likes running over blokes, but interesting landing spot.
Yeah, look, he was somebody who I guess I watched that game again, that bowl game against Florida, and I was really, I hadn't really, I don't follow OU or the Big 12, and I was really surprised at how he looked really smooth. He scored that touchdown where he had really, really great footwork. Kind of thought he'd been working with Footwork King because he was so good.
He looks good for his size, eh? He looks like agile.
He does. And look, I went back and I had a bit of a look. And, considering he was suspended for a period of the season for marijuana, he still actually led the team in yards by quite a bit. So that was really interesting. Landing spot, look, I've learnt my lesson from having Sony Michel a couple of years ago. New England backfields, I'm not sure you really want to be investing in those for fantasy. Sure, if you think you know something that the rest of us don't, go ahead. But look, Bill Belichick is just going to do he's just going to do Belichick things, and that's not good for fantasy. Yes, it's good to see players like Damian Harris getting their run. But look, Sony Michel's still there. I think he's trying to emulate the ghost of Todd Gurley at the moment. I think they're trying to fight each other with their decaying knees. So look, we'll see what happens there. He's an interesting player. Some people call him a plotter. I think he's got some athleticism, but look, let's see what he can do.
Hey, he's good for his size.
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah,
Imagine if
so.
New England had taken like Nick Chubb. Anyway,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think he's fine. I think he'll genuinely compete with certainly with Michel for touches as well as Harris. I think just the way that I was watching Harris, and I'm biased because I went and bought him last year, and I had him last year, and I bought him this year again in every other league I have. But I think like Harris looked quite like a running back should look. Michel has his moments where he's fucking 2 yards, negative 2 yards, and then he has these 16-yard bursts. And I think Ramondre will be able to compete with Michel for touches. I think with Harris too. I think it'll be an interesting backfield. James White will just do what he does. But yeah, I kind of don't mind. I didn't really know where I wanted him to land or where I expected him to land. I think this is exactly how I'd feel no matter where he landed. I think he is what he is.
So I guess just on another note, I mean, with Stevenson finally, declaring and going through to the NFL, you would have hoped that this year was going to be the year for Seth McGowan and Kennedy Brooks. But no. They've got on board an Eric Gray. So, just muddy the waters again completely. So great for you as an OU fan. But,
for sure. We love it. We love our transfer portals. We love that.
Yeah.
That offense is fucking lit.
It's just going to be interesting because I think McGowan has been, he's fought off people like Trey Sermon before, and obviously Kennedy Brooks had done the same. So, but it's just, now they're just competing again. So I'm not really sure quite what they're trying to do with that.
Oh, if you win that backfield, your draft stock just skies to the roof. You win that backfield, but that's the problem is that it just got revolving doors of quarterbacks and running backs at the moment. Talk about revolving door of running backs. New York's been that for a little while now. No one sort of seems to stick. In round 4, pick 107, they take Michael Carter. Now, it's a backfield where the offense when they went and bought Tevin Coleman across. They also had LaMichael Pirine there. I don't know where I'm going with this because they're kind of just so I don't know what to think. It's weird because if any of these other guys, if Monte Stevenson or Chuba had even gone there, I would be grabbing them and they would be the guys. Just I'm not sold on Michael Carter and I'm not even sold on their offense. It's going to be fucking terrible still.
Yeah, look, the a little bit of I guess if we think about their other draft pick, which was a completely different position, but we think about, how they picked Elijah Moore. So the thing about Elijah Moore is Elijah Moore can be moved in and out of the backfield a lot like Deebo Samuel. Mm-hmm. So we've got effectively a 49ers coaching, guys from the 49ers coaching tree here. I wouldn't be surprised to see that they're doing a little bit of that with Moore, and then they go with Carter because Carter's got the pass catching skill set. So, hey, that's me probably giving the Jets much more credit than they deserve. Let's face it, they're in this position for a reason.
For sure.
But, if I was in that position, I'd be looking at the skill sets. You've got a really dynamic wide receiver who can do end arounds, who can motion in and out of the backfield. Use him with the shifty pass-catching running back. When I was watching Javonte Williams tape towards the end of last year, it just wound up being the Michael Carter show because just as much as Williams was breaking out, so was Carter. He's a different type of running back, but he's got skills. I think the problem's going to be here. It's a whole new it's whole new coaches, it's a new quarterback, it's even their O-line. I mean, they're still going to have to build that O-line. I know they've got Pirotuka, I know they've got Mekhi Becton, but look, it's a brand new team. I don't think it's going to be flash for a while.
That's my worry, and they comp him to Devontae Freeman because of how sort of agile he is on his feet, as you mentioned. It's just super interesting because they're all like P. Ryan's actually the only guy there that I think is like the more running back out of all of them. I think Coleman and Carter might be a little similar. I think I've added Coleman in quite a few of my leagues. I think if you've got a bench spot and you literally just got no one to put on because your team sucks, the upside of Tevin Coleman for me this year is probably just a sneaky just add, just because there's a route where he could possibly be a sort of lead back based off what they've done in the off season. Carter could easily sort of be the guy there, but I'm not entirely sure of what they're doing. I don't think they're going to do it. And the problem for me is that I think like his rookie deal is going to be done up in what 4 or 5 years, more or less.
Yeah.
And the problem is I think it's going to take 3 before they even sort of have anything. Like they grabbed Elijah Vertuck, as you mentioned. So the O-line's there. The Becton's already got there. Zach Wilson's going to take a year or two. They still don't have many wide receivers. I know they grabbed more, but I think that they'll grab another one before they'll be good, and then they're going to start on the defense. So I'm not sure they're going to have their personality as a team before he's like ready sort of to even get a role. And I think it's just going to be one of those ones where they're just going to burn capital in 3 years when they're actually starting to ready to win, and then get a good running back and actually just go for a chip. I don't think he's got I don't think he's in their path longer term. I think he's just there to kind of just kill time for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Coleman, like you, I think Coleman's probably the one to own at the moment out of that backfield. They've got a week 6 bye.
Cheap as fuck to his moment to get, but carry on.
Yeah. So, with Coleman isn't the he's not the sturdiest player. So, Carter could be a stash. He could be your type of week 4 waiver wire pickup. And then you head into that week 6 bye, come back, he may get a shot week 7. But,
or alternatively, week 1 he'll break his ankle and you'll just be able to drop him quite easily.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for Coleman, but I think Carter could be a week 7 pickup.
Yeah, I think that'll be sort of the route. They'll literally just put him on, just figure what he's got, because Coleman will be broken down. Piran will be back on COVID list, and they'll have no one else to really go to.
They'll bring back Frank Gore.
Long live Frank Gore. That wraps up our first episode of our deeper and later round picks and running backs. Thank you, Jordan. And we'll see you on the next one where we dive into round 3, round 2, and round 1 picks.